Alright friends, here we are. As you can tell from the title, this is going to be a video with a commentary overlapping this wonderful Overwatch footage that you might remember from earlier. It got a copyright strike on it for a song, so I figured instead of fight it, I would just take it down and re-upload it as a commentary with all the music taken out. So, and as you may see in the title, this is a commentary about gun control. It's a very controversial, hot button topic, but I feel that I need to, let my voice be heard. So, here we go. First thing I want to do is reference a poll that I read very recently. And polls, just so you know, I'm not some idiot who just looks at a poll and says, oh, look at that, 92% to 8%, which I'll reference later. That's such a high number when you realize that polls can be skewed in the fact that wherever you give the poll, the location, the geological location that you give the poll, or the people you use for the poll, so they can be skewed. But I just want to throw these numbers out there and let you know what I think about them. So let's start off with this like that 92%. So it's asking whether you favor or oppose this. A background check on anyone attempting to purchase a gun in order to determine whether the prospective buyer has been convicted of a felony. 92% in favor, 8% oppose. But the reason that's skewed is obviously that is already in place. That's not something that we can change. Or it is something that we can change. We could definitely change it for the worse. But it's not something that we need to put into place. It's already there. So that poll right there is useless. Now, the further we go down the list, the more, things get a little skewed. Like a ban on the manufacture, sale, and possession of semi-automatic assault guns such as the AK-47. It's a 54% in favor, 44% opposed, with a 2% unsure. Honestly, with polls like this, that's way too close to even consider that. And that's most of them. A ban on the sale and possession of equipment known as high capacity or extended ammunition clips, which allow some guns to shoot more than 10 bullets before they need to be reloaded. Almost the same exact numbers, except for it's 45% that oppose, 1% unsure, and 54% still in favor. I want to talk about that one for a second because, again, polls can be skewed, so I'm not even taking my opinion from that. My opinion is that making the guns, making the clip size shorter so you can't have any clips over 10 bullets is something I'm well in favor of. And the reasons why is if you wanted to hunt, 10 bullets should be in one magazine should be more than enough for you. If you wanted to defend yourself, 10 bullets in a magazine should be more than enough for you. And God forbid, just like what happened in Orlando, if you have 10 bullets in a magazine and you have to reload after only 10 bullets, maybe, not necessarily for sure, but maybe not so many people would have died. I can't say that for sure, but you can't say for sure that it would be the same amount of people who died either. So it's kind of a moot point, but without trying it, we'll never know. That's really my point. Without trying it, we'll never know. Now, here are things that haven't happened. Preventing certain people such as convicted felons or people with mental health problems from owning guns. 87% in favor, 12 opposing, 1 unsure. Regardless of where the poll come from, that's still a very high percentage. And the fact that that is not something that people have to pass in a background check is, in my opinion, ridiculous. Convicted felons or people with mental health, especially people with mental health problems, should not own guns. I understand that they're just as much Americans as you and me, but there's people who have conditions like bipolar or they're schizophrenic, and honestly, I know people who have that, and I wouldn't trust them with a gun either. It's just how it is. You never know what's going through their head at what time. You just never know. So it's not something that I would take a risk with, and I don't think other people should either. And that's why I think it's 87% in favor. There's another one, preventing people who are on the U.S. government's terrorist watch list or no-fly list from owning guns. 85% in favor, 14% opposed, 1% unsure. In my opinion, I'm for that. Technically, you could say that the government would put anyone on the no-fly list or terrorist watch list, and you could prevent them from owning guns, which, there'd have to be some legislation in there that the government can't just, put whoever they want on there just so they can restrict the guns further. There'd have to be, rules against doing something like that. There has to be a reasonable excuse for why someone's on the terrorist watch list or no-fly list, is what I'm getting at. And now the one that obviously everyone talks about, preventing all Americans from owning guns. 9% in favor, 90% oppose. Apparently there's 1% that is just missing, which is weird for a poll. I get that. I completely get that. So we're good with that. And more on the polls. I'll put a link in the description to show you, or to give you a source from where this is coming from. Most of the polls done over the last 3 years, it's basically liberals versus conservatives, Democrats versus Republicans. Republicans want things kept as they are. Democrats want things more strict. That's just how they're being voted. Now, as far as my own personal opinion is that I don't believe anybody anywhere in the entire world should own a gun. I mean anyone at all. And before you go to the comments and make a crazy comment, just listen to what I have to say in the next couple sentences. When I say I don't believe anybody should own a gun anywhere, I mean I wish guns never existed at all. In a perfect world, I wish guns never existed at all. I think we'd be much better off if it just never happened. Now, that's in a perfect world. That's not realistic. There's nothing realistic about that. There's guns everywhere. People have guns. People have guns illegally. People have guns legally. That's stupid. So being a realistic person, I think it's more than reasonable to ask for a bigger restriction on background checks, like I've talked about. In my opinion, I think it's reasonable to ask for a restriction on clip size. Other people are going to say that's not reasonable. Other people are going to say my next point is even more unreasonable, that there should be a ban on any kind of semi-automatic rifles. I think they're just as much killing machines as anything. You have one of those with a 30-round clip, just like that guy in Orlando, you can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. And I think something like that needs to stop. These are my opinions. Feel free to dispute me. It's fine. I am more than willing to have reasonable conversations about this. I think a good dialogue is the way that we move things forward. As far as other things go, I mean, you talk about like the Orlando thing, and people talk about it as it was an Islamic terrorist act, and it wasn't. Just to kick that off, it wasn't. The guy was of the Islamic faith, and he did claim ISIS. He did say that this was for ISIS, and ISIS also did claim responsibility. But you have to know that the federal government found no link at all between him and ISIS. None whatsoever. Which means ISIS is just spewing its propaganda, which it wants to do to make itself more powerful, by saying that it had something to do with an action that it had nothing to do with an action, besides the extremist person doing something, killing a bunch of people, and then they just take advantage of the situation and claim like they had responsibility, but they didn't. They want you to think they did, but they didn't. So that's something you need to remember. Another thing I would say is, outside of the Orlando shooting, you have the Virginia Tech shooting, you have the Sandy Hook shooting, and the Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooting. And most of what I know, or what I remember about those, I probably should have researched that a little bit, is that none of those people had anything to do with Islamic or Muslim faith at all. In fact, two of them were white people, and I'm not mistaken. Please correct me in the comments if I am. I believe it was like an Asian American that was part of the or did the Virginia Tech shootings. All Americans, two of them mentally ill. I think the other one just snapped in college, kind of like the Columbine shooting a while ago. But this all leads back to it's not a Muslim or Islamic or foreign or anything like that problem. Most of the time, it's a mental health problem. So if you eliminate the mental health issue part of owning guns, makes it a hell of a lot better in this country. So people not for that are, I don't know, I think they're holding the country back. They're holding the country hostage by not allowing us to have a law banning mentally ill people from owning guns. Another thing is basically, I don't know, you can take your own opinions from everything that I've said. There was a law that went away in 2004. It was the federal assault weapons ban that was done in 1994 and signed by President Bill Clinton and expired in 2004. And it banned certain semi-automatics and limited magazines defined as large capacity. I think that ended in 2004 because we had a president and in Bush who wouldn't oppose keeping it going, and we had a tragedy only 3 years earlier that made us scared to make sure that we extended that ban. That's my own personal opinion. Again, take from it what you will. But truthfully, if we could just get the conversation moving and maybe a law to get passed, anything, you know what I mean? Anything. Just, even if it's as simple as a little bit stricter on the criminal background checks and a ban that people who have mental health deficiencies get banned from buying guns. That's at least a step in the right direction in this country. And you can oppose that, and I'm fine with it. I'd rather have like I said, I'd rather have a good dialogue than none at all. Because at least we're talking about it rather than one side saying we should ban all your guns on the far left, and on the far right you have people screaming they want to take our guns and I'm not giving them up. To be honest, most of the reasonable people don't want to take your guns. They don't. We just want, all we want is for, or at least all what I hope the other people that agree with me want, is to have more legislation on the restrictions on the background checks, and maybe a restriction on clip size is really the big talking points for me, and in this obviously. But anyways, like I said, if you disagree, you feel free to disagree. I'm fine with it. I'd rather you left comments that are, getting the dialogue going rather than yelling at me, but I'll take either. It's fine. But if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this commentary, let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment. Subscribe would be best for me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And this Overwatch gameplay was, pretty decent. Pretty decent. Soldier 76 is kind of an easy person to use. But anyways, thank you, and bye-bye.